All right, everyone. Welcome to the True Dungeon 20th Anniversary Retrospective. For those of you who may not know me, my name is Trent of TrentTokens.com. I also have a YouTube show called True Dungeon Talk with Trent, where I interview this guy quite often. I'm going to get you over there one of these days.
Where is YouTube anyway?
If you go to YouTube, is it YouTube.com?
Yes.
Yeah, YouTube.com. That's where it's at. And you might even see an amazing YouTube show called Chaldea, right?
Yeah.
That's a very good YouTube show if anyone hasn't seen it yet. Yeah, Gen Con TV as well. And so today we're going to be talking to, of course, Jeff and Peter here about the early days of True Dungeon. And we'll find out how this fine young man here helped really spark this amazing craze that we're all big fans of. And in case someone was raised on a different planet and has not heard of True Dungeon yet, imagine a D&D themed escape room with multiple rooms and a team of adventurers working together as a team, solving puzzles, fighting monsters, and achieving lots and lots of fun. And at the end, you get treasure. So who could, want more? It's extremely popular at this convention here at Gen Con. It sells out, as I think many of us know, in mere minutes. And today we're going to talk about how it got started many, many moons ago. So without further ado, let's get going with some intros. Peter, for the people who might not know you, would you mind introducing yourself?
Hi, I'm Peter.
Hi, Peter.
I have an addiction to fun. Sometimes I have too much fun. You probably want to know
That's a different
more
meeting.
business background. Yeah, different meeting, wrong place. Let's see, I was the founder of Wizards of the Coast back in 1990 and was CEO through the 90s. So I was on the spot when we published Magic the Gathering and when we acquired TSR. And of course, the prize, we thought the prize was Dungeons and Dragons. Turns out the real prize was Gen Con. And so I didn't tell Hasbro how special it was, so when I left Hasbro, they sold it to me. And I've owned it ever since. I have three wonderful partners, and we love coming to Gen Con. It's so much fun, so cool.
We love coming here as well. Yeah,
Thank you.
right?
Thank you.
Yeah, and one thing I failed to mention, I wanted to, in case someone here doesn't know, besides playing at conventions, True Dungeon is now an online adventure as well. So if you haven't checked that out, go to TrueDungeon.com and you'll see how you can play it online. Speaking of True Dungeon, would you mind introducing yourself?
Certainly. Before I do, though, I want to point out that Stefan Corney is not here. Unfortunately, he came down with COVID, and he couldn't make his first Gen Con since probably '95. So, unfortunately, he's not here. So, if you're wondering why there's no crazy guy up here other than us three, that's where he's at.
Oh, wow.
So, apologies for that. But yeah, hi.
His name will come up.
Oh,
Yes.
that name comes up all over Gen Con, especially in the bars.
Yeah.
Anyway. Hi, my name is Jeff Martin. Thanks for coming. I'm the luckiest gamer on the planet, so I
think I'm the luckiest gamer on the planet.
Alright. Second luckiest gamer on the planet.
Fight!
Yeah, so I help this thing called True Dungeon happen every year, and it's our 20th year, and I'm real privileged and happy that I still keep getting to do this. So thank you very much. And then the last thing I want to do here, I was one of the alternative motives of getting Peter and Stefan here to help me out in this seminar was just to take the opportunity to thank them in front of a large group of people, to say thank you very much, thank you. As you will find out later, he was sent an improvised explosive device, and he thought that was pretty cool. Don't do it again. But yeah, he took a big gamble on me and a crazy guy from the middle of nowhere, and without his vision and without Stefan basically putting a little bug in his ear about this crazy guy from the middle of nowhere, we would all be here, and True Dungeon would never happen. So thank you guys. Thank you.
All right, so I'm going to have a list of questions here. We're going to go down them, and if we have time, we'll take some audience questions. So let's start at the very beginning. Jeff, how in the world did you come up with this idea for True Dungeon? Where was the inspiration?
Oh, well, it was just a nerd wanting to follow a dream. So it all started back, everybody when you're a kid, especially when you're older like this, before you had, all this great media stuff to consume, your parents would kick you out of the house and you got to play with sticks and leaves and rocks and bicycles. So, yeah, growing up as a kid, of course, I had a great neighborhood full of, we had probably 20 kids within us, 2 square blocks of my house. So we were always doing some crazy stuff. And we had nothing other to do than just we'd play jobs. We'd all I'm gonna be a gas station attendant. You'd sit by a fire hydrant all day and collect leaves from people as they get their bicycles filled up with gas. That's just kind of the weird stuff you did in the 70s. That was kind of the stuff you did. So, but I think the first big step was I loved putting on haunted houses as a kid. So I was probably one of the youngest kids in the neighborhood. I loved going over to a neighbor's house and trying to talk to mom and letting us have a haunted house in their basement. So I managed to do that about 3 or 4 times, and then we finally got to go. We lived on the edge of town, and there was a really nice barn. And our final achievement was having a 2-story haunted house in a barn. It was awesome. I loved doing that. So that was just putting on haunted houses for people was just this is a blast. And I loved coordinating it all. I drew out little maps, everything like I do still today. Just like doing all that. So and then luckily what happened after that was Dungeons and Dragons came along, which is an awesome game. Thanks for saving it, by the way, Peter. Appreciate that. So immediately after playing some Dungeons and Dragons, of course, like most people, you start imagining, man, this would be fun to do in person, right? You want to try to experience some of this cool stuff because when you're playing it, you're trying to imagine it and everything. And then, then a book came along called Dream Park. I don't know if you guys have ever read that, where it talked about you kind of did. They used holograms and this big dome to do some kind of interactive game. So I always, since I was a teen, I was like, man, someday I'd really love to play in something where it was like an interactive, life-size Dungeons and Dragons game. So, and then, I guess that's where I'm supposed to stop talking.
All right, so let's jump to your adult years. So late 90s is when the beginnings of TV started to kind of fester? That's not the right word. Fester? That's what I was imagining. It's like festering. It must get out of there. But you and your pals started something called JeffCon, right? Or you started that. And so take us from, how did JeffCon start? Sure. What was it? And
yeah, fast forward about 1997, and I live in a town called Carbondale, which is a small little college town. So I have all the awesome people that come in, stay for a few years, and then leave. So I was like, man, SIU, salute. Dogs. Yeah, and so I was like, hey, I want to try to have an event where we can get all these old folks to come back to town and we'll all get together and game again. It was awesome. So the first one had 6 people at it. We rented some cabins out at Giant City. As you know, that was an awesome place to do it. And the big thing I wanted to do was I had a D&D tournament. I wanted to make something really cool about it. So the only thing I could come up with is to actually make props for it. So I took a rabbit skin and made a map with some clues on it. And I made a staff that I found that's out on a walk that a beaver had taken all the bark off, and it had some really interesting marks in it, and then I stained it and made it really cool. I made a secret compartment that had the command word. It was a staff of healing. So it was cool. So that to me was that's going to be the ultimate D&D. You get some real props. So I was like, here, you found this staff. Try to figure out how to use it. And then here's a map. Try to figure out the clues. So that eventually morphed over the years. So then I tried to get bigger and bigger. And then I finally started doing the final room as much as possible, life size. And this was in a hotel, a small hotel room. So it was maybe 10 foot by 10 foot. So it wasn't very big, but it got more and more elaborate. About that time I met Stefan, in 2000, I went to Gen Con, and a friend of mine got me an exhibitor badge. He had Stu Bernard. He has passed away since, but he was awesome enough to get me an exhibit badge. I helped him set up, and then I went out wandering around. First, I hit WotC booth because that's when 3rd edition came out, and I was hoping I could score a free player's handbook by helping them out. But they said, "Go away, weirdo." So I went around behind the castle, and there was Stefan pulling his hair out because he had stuff everywhere, and they were way behind, and he was setting up. And I was a huge fan of the Dwarven Forge stuff. So me and a friend of mine, Sean McCain, we jumped in and helped him out, and that's how I got to know Stefan. The next day I showed up just in the morning to see how things went, and Stefan was still passed out in his hotel room. So me being me, I just jumped behind the booth and opened it for him. Because there were people standing there. I had no money and no credit card machine. So when he finally showed up about 1 o'clock, I had $3,000 stuffed in my pants because I didn't have a cash box or anything. He was very thankful for that. So he just so I started running the booth for him after that. So anyway, that's how that all started. And then, yes. So then eventually I invited Stefan to come to Jeff Con because he's an awesome dude and he's a lot of fun. He brought a couple friends with him and had a great time. I wish he was here. He could tell you this awesome story about how I got him really good with a trap chest. Because it was Jeff Con, I could do pyrotechnics, which is can't do that here, unfortunately. But yeah, I had a chest trapped with some flash cotton to go off. And it was right at the front. It was a big chest. You open it up and it goes off, poof, right? Well, Stefan was the rogue, and he unfortunately decided he was going to look really carefully to see if he could see a trigger. And he saw one when it went off. He was blind for several minutes after that. He's right there. Yeah, he said his eyebrows were a little singed, which I can believe. I almost stopped him. I'm not. Anyway. So that made quite an impression on Stefan, I think. So the next year is when some crazy stuff happened.
Right. So speaking of Stefan, Peter, you were talking to Stefan at Essen, and then I believe you were describing your new needs for something quite large, right? So pick it up from there.
Well, I'm going to throw in, now that I have the mic, I want to return the thanks. Thank you for bringing the biggest event at Gen Con to Gen Con for all these years.
Yeah.
And since Stefan's not here to tell his story, I'm going to throw in just a little bit about how I met Stefan, just to represent him a bit. Stefan, he likes to go to parties. He likes to hit the bar, and so do I. And there was this moment where we were the last two people in the bar. And we're like, and it stood out, and it was like, hey, we chatted a little bit, and then the next convention that I went to, he was at, and again, we were like the last two people at some party somewhere, and we're like, and so we traded phone numbers, and then we go to a convention, we start calling, hey, are you here at this? Where's the party? So and then eventually we just became the party. I mean, people started, we would decide where we were going and a whole bunch of people would show up. And so one of those shows, that's how we got to be buddies. And one of those shows that we met up with was Essen Spieltag in Essen, Germany, which at that time was the largest tabletop games convention in the world. It's not anymore. Well, it depends on how if you're clever, as you know, you can find a way to measure things so that it works out. Anyway, so I had recently acquired Gen Con, and the thing that I was really looking for was spectacle. Large events and I didn't know what that would be. So I would talk about this with pretty much anybody, just figuring that you keep talking. I've learned if you want something, you keep talking about it, it gets it out in the atmosphere, it gets it out there. And I explained this idea to Stefan, and he thought it was pretty interesting. And I guess he remembered that. Do I jump to the next story yet? Or whatever. And it's a little bit of a blur as to how far apart these moments are when they happen exactly, but the sequence you can kind of figure out which one to tell next. So it was at some point later, months or years, he called me, and he said, "Hey, Peter, Peter, I think you need to meet this guy Jeff. Yeah, he's really cool, man, and he's
So Stefan is here.
He's he's a good guy, man, and he's got a thing that he does this event in I don't know where it is, I don't remember, but it's called Jeff Con, and I think you should go." And I'm like, "Oh, all I need is another convention to go to." But like, are you going to be there? And he's like, "Yeah, I'm going to be there, man. Why don't you come?" "Okay, well, we can hang out. We'll hit the bar." "Okay, so yeah, you should come." And then I just kind of forgot about it, right, until I got a thing in the mail. Right. So it was an exploding scroll tube. I mean, just jump right to the punchline. It was twist off the top and boom, what the? Are we being streamed? What the? Holy cow. But then I opened it up, and it was an invitation from Jeff to attend JeffCon, and like if there was any doubts of whether I was going to go, I mean, I was leaning to go just hang out with Stefan, but like, oh my, I got to see this guy, see if this guy's up to some craziness. Anybody who sends you a exploding scroll tube and it's an invitation. I mean, what does a typical adventure do? I mean, this is where the treasure is, right?
Why would Gen Con do that? I want.
Yeah. Well, talk to the man. I don't know. I don't know how to make an explosive scroll tube.
So how was your first experience
so I went.
at Jeff Con? How was that experience with you, Stefan, and everybody else? You were doing an AD tournament, right?
Yeah, well, it was a small convention in a hotel, which is great. I love small conventions. It's they're intimate. You really get to kind of understand the convention and everything going on. And I got to play in a D&D tournament with Stefan. I think Stefan and I run the same team, and in fact, our team did well. We no thanks to any of my contributions, we ended up winning the
There it is.
tournament.
Oh yeah, there's a picture of that, right? Yeah.
There it is. Yeah.
So if you don't know who Stefan is, try to guess which one he is. From what you've heard so far, right? He's the one that looks like he's having a really good time. Yeah. So that's when you guys won first place.
Yeah, and so that plaque I still have, and it is my most valued award that I've ever received. Winning the Jeff Con role-playing tournament, more valuable to me than my Entrepreneur of the Year award from Ernst & Young.
Do you remember the secret door from that tournament?
No, I don't remember the secret. What I remember was that we played through the tournament, most of it, and then we got almost to the end, and you think that it's like, oh, we all got to move to another room. Like, what? We got to move to another room, right? Okay, fine. We get up, take our stuff, and go over to the room. We talk about the fully immersive room, and my most vivid recollection is that it was pitch dark in there, and I couldn't read my character sheet. I felt so lost as to what was going on, but it was fantastic. All the special effects, and I was like, wow, I was blown away. Like, this is crazy. This is insane. And it was the most impressive sort of immersing, in what this category is. Like, the most impressive thing it was certainly more impressive than a LARP I had ever attended or anything like that.
Yeah, I think it invented a new category. I think we would agree to that. Is there anything else you want to add about the final room, Jeff?
It was I don't know if you probably don't remember, but it was a two-parter. There was actually a secret door, and you were supposed to do some little thing, and then the secret door opens, and then beyond it was this fountain, this like font, I guess, that looked like stone, and there was a pool of like blue glowing water that was UV dye, and then there was a key across from it. So you're gonna have to reach across to get the key of the pool. And that was the first time I really got a big giggle out of stuff, because we had it rigged so there was somebody underneath with a hand, and they'd shove it up through the pool when they tried to grab the key, and then every group screamed like it was so I think and that's actually where the term blue hand comes from, if anybody knows that. That's what we call our prop assistants, or guinea pigs, or whatever, because after a while the dye soaked through the glove, and he came out and it looked like a Smurf when he was done. And it was like a week before it came off, because it was pretty strong. But anyway, glad he's not here.
Never saw him again.
Yeah. And then after that, you guys went to, what is it, breakfast, lunch at Bob Evans?
We went over to Bob Evans afterwards, and we kind of like hashed it all out over pancakes, I think.
Yeah, it's a pancake plate, or maybe we just had pancakes at a diner.
Yeah. Basically, he agreed to give me I think it was $5,000 to get. This was March, and Gen Con was like in late July that year. And I was like, all right, that'll be awesome. I'll use that to create the walls and whatever props I had. I think I spent probably double that, but it was awesome to like have actually somebody give me some money for something that was like game related. So that was awesome. And it was a nice vote of confidence, because I could have showed up with a ball pit in the middle of the things. Have fun. Nobody knows that story. But yeah, then we had about 4 or 5 months to get the event created and the module done and everything built.
So what did you do with those months? How did you decide what to do, and how did you build it, and how did you figure out how to get it here? Explain that process.
Alrighty, I'll just show you some stuff as I'm talking.
What year was that again?
2003. So, and Peter went back to Gen Con. I was like, hey, I think I just might have made a mistake here, but I'm going to give this guy $5,000, and we're going to give him one of our biggest rooms, so hopefully he shows up. And by the time I had the whole event figured out and everything, it was too late to add it to the ticketing system. So you'll see later what we used. You couldn't even buy a True Dungeon ticket through their system. You had to come to the event to do it. But I had a sign shop at the time, and this shows us making a template for the walls. We cut it out of, we found the most destructive and dirty material, fiberglass, to make it out of. It's a bad mistake. So we made this template, and then we were able to use it to spray paint onto coroplast, which is like a flame retardant coroplast. This picture, at the time I was building a shop, my new sign shop, and there was no air conditioning or power or anything. There weren't any windows in there. That's why there's natural light here. But we had we used it because it was a nice open space. So here we are at my new half-built sign shop, making the walls. Just some other things I'd want to show, maybe some of the old timers. These are all prototypes of what we thought we were going to do with True Dungeon. We were developing them. This is what clerics were going to do originally. These were just like objects of different things. Came up with the whole prayer bead idea much later. So, and this was on the prototype combat boards. So, I guess I need to first tell the story answer your question probably correctly. But once I got the go-ahead from Peter, I called up a friend of mine named Aaron Boaz. He's not here, unfortunately, but he and I jumped in my pickup truck and went riding around the hills of southern Illinois. And he just took copious notes, and if you guys ever need to create something cool, jump in your pickup and drive around rural roads, because it's something about, it releases a part of your brain driving that just helps you create stuff. I've always found that to be the case for me. Some people it's listening to the music, some people it's taking a walk. For me, it's just driving around and
Hiking in the mountains for me.
Yeah.
Mountains.
Great, yeah. So we wrote down all this stuff, and we basically came up with True Dungeon in like a 3-hour drive. Again, we went through a couple of iterations on some of the tests and stuff, and this was the combat board. For the first couple of years, we didn't use tokens for sliding. We had these things. They're basically the fighters got the better chance of damage by having a more sighted type slider. So, and then we decided to have. This is a good excuse to have a party at my house. So we got out of the tent and opened this up, and we got a little smashed and started playing True Dungeon. So I will say my first slide ever, and probably my only slide ever, I did hit a natural 20 on this, my first slide. I was like,
Is that like a fish story? You should have seen that.
That's when I knew something. Yeah, there's a little closer up. So, yeah, I don't know if there's anything else I wanted to cover, but I think that's it. So, I mean, I guess the last thing I just wanted to say was, since True Dungeon was first started, it's been augmented and improved many, many times. And a little bit by me and a lot by everybody I have an awesome amount of players and volunteers that give me great feedback, and I'm smart enough to listen to them, I think. And so, yeah, lots of the improvements that you guys have seen over the years is not from me, but it's from somebody on the forum or somebody that just comes up to me at a convention or sends me an email and says, hey, instead of using those weird square geoforms, why don't you put the weapon token in a slider and slide that? That would be cooler. And I'm like, that's a good idea. So, stuff like that, yeah.
And what about you, Peter, when you played at Jeff Con,
Yeah.
and all that insanity, and right before that was the Exploding 2, so you had all these experiences, and what were your expectations from True Dungeon, coming from Jeff Con into this big space? You mentioned that big space. The space was overwhelming when you first saw it, I'm sure.
Yeah, 8,000 square feet. It was huge. I was petrified. When we first saw it, Lori leaned over and said, you have no idea what you're doing.
So what were your expectations and hopes for True Dungeon?
Well, I didn't really doubt. I mean, Jeff sold me right away on being a man of good character and imaginative. You know, I trusted him. You know, he's from the Midwest, so of course, you know. And so I never really doubted that he wouldn't, try this and pull it off. I also knew, rightly so, that there would be challenges. Scaling up a business is always tricky, and always, scaling up a business always introduces new problems. So you have to be, quick on your feet and figure things out. He just seemed like that kind of guy. I've always really looked up to creators. People who create something, have an innovative breakthrough, and I've always felt that people who do that should have an outsized amount of power to be able to see that vision. They understand what that vision is. Whether it was going clear back to Gary and Luke, or Gary and Dave. Luke came later. Also, Richard Garfield, who I've worked with really closely on Magic the Gathering. And so, to me, Jeff was immediately in that category, even though it was unproven. I just always knew it was going to be big. I just knew it from the beginning. Like, if this guy pulls this off, it's going to be huge. Everybody's going to want to do this. And so, to me, it was, the opportunity to have it come to Gen Con and to have, that relationship from the beginning was worth taking a risk. And and sure enough, there was a bunch of stuff you had to figure out. I think drainage was a big question mark, and things like lighting and carpeting, doing it inside a hotel ballroom, because I think you were over in the, when you first came.
The Hyatt.
The Hyatt.
Yeah.
And stuff, I wasn't sure. I thought if he fails, it's going to be a failing of, it's going to be a failing of scale. Like he's just not going to, he's going to come in and blast in and say, shoot, instead of 8 rooms, I'm going to have 4 rooms or something like that, right? I never doubted that he was going to build the stuff and it would be awesome. It's just like, is he really going to be able to fill up this whole ballroom after, going from doing 1 room at a convention and then doing it just 4 months later. And I'm pretty sure I didn't push too hard that it had to be the next Gen Con. I'm pretty sure that came from you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. In fact, you had 5 months or whatever to do it. That was your choice. It was certainly on our end. We had to scramble to rearrange things and stuff like that. But the show was a lot smaller back in those days. And it was also something that my staff knew that I was passionate about, in the sense that, this strategy of trying to bring more spectacle to Gen Con. Stuff like, it's like, we're the biggest show. In those days, Origins was a lot closer to Gen Con in terms of size. It's just like, and I love Origins. I go there. In fact, I ran Origins for 8 years. Origins is great. I go there now as a place where I just relax and play games. But I don't want them being a close second. I want them being a distant second. We got to, because I'm an entrepreneur at the end of the day. Says we got to make this show big, and the way we're going to do that is we got to have stuff at our show that the small shows can't compete with. We got to spend the money. We have capital. We're profitable. We can make investments and build really big, cool stuff. So that's a key strategic priority. So when Jeff enters my life, it was like, okay, this is something we got to do. So everybody, I don't care what plans you have in this ballroom, but change it.
Very cool. And I think you have a video you wanted to show us?
I can show you some stuff here if you want. I can just kind of
Video or photos?
Yeah, I'll just show these real quick, and then basically this is the Hyatt room. I know it's not a great photo, but this is where we first started the Celebration Hall. You can go by there. There's a small plaque on the wall. But you don't know. There's they took it down after I put it up. So. Yeah. So you'll see how small it was at the time. I thought it was huge, and I was worried exactly that it was way over my head. So luckily, I was able to make something happen. But yeah, we trying to talk about logistics. They didn't really have a loading dock, so to speak. So we parked in the street and carried everything up the escalators to get it. Oh, so there we were, calling everything in. Luckily, we were much younger then, so and not as smart. So we were happy to do.
Tom, music guy.
Yeah, and there's just some. This was the best DM for the first year. I thought I'd throw his photo in here really quick. Mike Bergman. We had the players rate their DMs because you went with the group then, and he got the highest score. He was awesome, and I got the lowest score. So we stopped doing that right then. Yeah, I thought people just wanted me to stay the hell out of the way, so I would just go in the room and disappear. They wanted somebody to help tell the story and get them immersed. I thought that would ruin it. So anyway, yeah, I learned my lesson there. That was good that I did that. Anyway, here's some of the folks putting up. It was all those core class walls that were spray painted. A lot of these.
It was so cool first year. I mean, so cool, but I mean that it was just so never been done before moment. Wow, this changes things.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Other than Jeff and Peter, was there anyone else from the first year?
Yeah, right. I could see a few faces here. Yeah.
Good.
Who's here?
Raven?
Oh yes, Raven, you're going to be coming up here shortly. So, so yeah, here's this. I think my wife took a video of the very first year, and so I kind of put together a quick little 30-second clip thing here. There's nothing. This just kind of shows us wandering around. We didn't see this pipe and drape till we got there, so we weren't sure exactly how we were going to hang the walls. So we're trying to figure it out here. As you can tell, we don't know what we're doing. We're like, what? So we ended up using zip ties and poking it in there, and it went well. We didn't hurt anybody.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Sounds like Burning Man.
Yeah.
Are zip ties the method you use to this day?
We do not use those anymore. Most of the time we use Velcro strips. They seem to work just
that
as
would be good.
yeah, and they're not as wasteful. It's nice you can reuse them over and over again. So when I was doing
If you have more photos, yeah, I wanted to get to like how the first day went.
So then after we built the thing, we had to train. So I thought I'd just do this. This video is like 2.5 minutes. It's kind of clips from some of the training, but it shows some of the rooms and some of the features that I thought you guys might find interesting. It seemed like the easiest way. So anyway, you can see there we were sliding, the old sliders. This was well before we had the cool token holders. And there's the torches in the background. The rooms were pretty much pitch dark, except for that one little torch that really kept people focused. You wouldn't have parties splitting off, looking all over the room for stuff, because they would be blind. There's only 6 people too back then, but anyway, that was fun. And this is just an example of one of this is like, I was really proud of this like set right here. We took styrofoam and put some vinyl on it and then hit it with acetone and kind of ate it to create like an etched stone look. It looked better in the dark, as all True Dungeon stuff does. Yeah, so that was fun, and there's a little puzzle there. And this is another one. This was a big floor puzzle. We had to figure out what this all meant and how to get across, and this was a fun one. We had this was featured in later on at Gen Con SoCal. They took a picture of it and they thought it was really cool. But I just wanted to show how skinny and young we all were. I wanted to come back to this shot right here. So to tell a quick story, this is not the greatest shot. Let me see if I can freeze it. All right, see that right here, this little thing. This was a trapped archway, and the first person ever to set up a trap in True Dungeon was Peter over here. We had a rig, so if you walked in there, the DM would go in first. You had to pick which way you wanted to go, this archway or this archway. If you picked that one, the DM would go in, and we had a little Instamatic camera, and we would take your picture as you came in. But the flash would go off. I have that later on. I can show you. It's pretty funny. But yeah, first person. So he was on part of the playtest group that night, and he's the first person to set off the trap.
Yeah, another first for you.
Yeah. So these are just some of the rooms.
It's all about timing.
This was an interesting room. This is when I knew that True Dungeon was going to be somewhat universal. This was a puzzle with all these gems. Again, I thought this was really super cool. Yeah, but unfortunately, yeah, it was a really cool puzzle in that. The reason I was saying that it was universal is during the playtest, all the hardcore gamers were completely lost. They had no idea what the solution was. But the nice lady from the Hyatt that was awesome, is like a liaison, she got it like that. So I was like, oh, that's great. It ended up being
Frank, I think was her name.
I wish you had your memory for names.
Just random.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so that first game, it was you, Stefan, this hotel liaison.
Yeah.
Do you remember that first game? Could you talk about it if you recall it?
Not much in terms of like specifics. I remember just the impression of being blown away at how cool it was. And also, I am horrible at solving puzzles and riddles, which is what mostly True Dungeon is, which makes sense because you can't really give everybody boffer weapons and have them go at it, you know. And just going, okay, this is really, really cool. I'm not the right demographic for this, though. I'm just so bad at it. So I was very impressed and felt very humbled all at the same time.
Were you a good slider? Because I'm not great at puzzles either, but I find myself to be a pretty good slider.
I'm not very good at aiming either.
Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah, no. I think that might have even been worse as a slider.
Oh my. Okay. All right. What else do you remember about that first run or that first day?
Just that I was really nervous and I was really happy I had a lot of help. Because again, there was no time hardly before this to get put together, so I went and begged a bunch of my good friends to help me out. So I got about 12 people to come and help me put this thing on. And then Gen Con actually sent us a couple of volunteers to help out front. That was helpful because we were short-staffed. We had a lady that was like 8 months pregnant doing that registration. So thanks for sending that help the second day. That was awesome. She needed a break. But yeah, and just to show you a little bit more on this thing, this is, I thought you guys might want to know, this is like, or find it cool, this is how rogue traps used to be. They were just attached to the wall. And we put them low to make them difficult, I guess, on this one. But
yeah, that was actually one thing I wasn't as bad at, like the playing operation. I do have a steady hand.
There you go. You're in a row. Yeah.
So this could be,
And you're good at setting off traps.
this could be like in the dark, and they'd have to like hold that little
Yeah.
torch there, and
Yeah.
they'd have to be doing it.
But it's also about having a really steady hand, and
Yeah.
for some reason I've just always been good at that sort of thing.
That's-
Probably picking up all those stall piles of wargaming chits playing.
There you go.
Yeah, speaking of the Rogue, isn't there something special in those early days for the Rogue?
Yeah, this image right here, let me start it back up here, but basically, the Rogue it was a halfling back then, and they were the only ones that could fit in this special tunnel. And when they went into the tunnel,
Yes.
it closed behind them,
I remember that.
and there's the tunnel. It closed behind them, and inside there was a sign that said, you got a choice. You can heal your party some hit points, I think it was 3 hit points, or you can take this cool t-shirt. And it's
The choice is clear.
It was only like 30% of the people took the t-shirt. It was nice.
Oh, that's lame.
Yeah. This is one of the first Groner True Dungeon puzzles, but if you look, it says wiggle to look, but in the thing it says look to middle. So that told you to open the middle chest. That was that one. But yeah, and then later when we played it at SoCal, it was reversed. It was 70% of the people took the t-shirt. I don't know what that means.
It means the growing popularity of True
Yeah,
Dungeon.
and then and
t-shirt.
here's one of the. This is the only rogue trap that ever shocked you. If you got it wrong, you got to get shocked. My crazy Uncle Bob made this for me. It caught fire on Saturday, so we had to shut down.
I'm not sure we should put this on tape.
Yeah, he came to visit my dad, and he was like, "Yeah, I can build this thing for you. It'll be awesome." And so we took apart an old TV. And I found out what a capacitor does that day. So yeah, definitely use insulated pliers when you're unplugging something or cutting wires on an old TV. So I do know it did shock. So, but yeah, it melted down on Saturday. But yeah, so we never did that again. And there it is again, different shot. But I'll speed all this up. And this was just I wanted to show this because I think this was the favorite puzzle of the run, and this is one my dad made for me. I've got a picture of a better one later, but yeah, him and it took him forever. This is a stained glass looking thing, and he used these tiny little paint tubes to make it. It looked really cool, and yeah, it was the best puzzle probably in the first 5, 6, 10, 20 years. Awesome puzzle, and it looked great. So I still have it, and you may see it again someday. This is just more footage of that altar where you had to grab the key. You'll see the hand here. I wanted to show that. See, it comes up right there. And that tube was the dye that was supposed to make the water like blue fluorescent. And it did a little bit, but it mostly made your hand blue. So you're blue. Here's a better picture of it. These goblets were basically made by Aaron Boaz, who had a ceramic shop at the time, to have a different pitch. So it made a 5-point scale. It was pretty cool. And then there's another shot. There's a little secret door down here where you could find a clue. I tried to go Scooby-Doo and make it like, hey, it looks like there's a secret door right there. And most people did find it, so that was cool. And then finally we have, there's the Flash. It's the best one There it is. And it came out of an old Instamatic camera. So you see Stefan laughing his ass off. And there's the smart lady from the high.
Wow.
Yeah, so there is. And Peter, of course, was playing the paladin, or the cleric, because he's got the thing around his thing around
Cleric,
his neck.
yeah.
Yeah, and Stefan was the rogue, unfortunately. So,
So you said there wasn't in the ticketing system at that time. So how did people get tickets? How did people, you know, learn about it and find out their times, etc.?
well, we were so late to the thing we couldn't make the schedule or anything, but they did pull like some. They did give us an ad. We got an ad, but it was way in the back between like back in the day. Then they'd list out all the tokens, and they would list out all the events. And somewhere stashed in there was our ad, so I think that helped a little bit. But it was mostly just word of mouth, and we actually did the ticketing ourselves. And instead of doing paper ones, I thought it'd be cool to do wooden nickels because they're cool. Some kind of souvenir, more medieval than like paper. And that's what gave us the idea later to do the treasure tokens. So, again, it's cool that a lot of things with True Dungeon started as, hey, let's do something cool and neat. And for folks that may not be too super smart or kind of expensive way to do it, but it ends up being cool in the end because we're able to use that nugget of an idea to make something really neat like tokens or virtual TV. So,
So what was I think it was the second day you saw this giant line and you were curious what that line was?
yeah, I'll show you here's the t-shirt you could get. Sorry, I should have had it. So it said I screwed my party for this awesome t-shirt. So
So that is a relic.
yeah, you still see them running around somewhere. All right, and this was the front of the whole thing. I had a sign shop, so I like making signs at the time. And I even advertised it down in the corner. Didn't get any sales somehow. People in Indianapolis didn't want to come to Carbondale to get signs. For some reason, but, and here's some folks lining up. There's Raven right there. Yeah. They're there to get their tickets because you had to get your tickets that morning for that day because we didn't want to have to mess with like different days and all it straight on the table. We said we'll just do the ticket sales that day. So the first day we did it, it was sporadic. The first couple of slots were hit and miss. Some of them were full, some of them weren't. But I think by about the third hour or so, it was, I guess word of mouth got out fast enough, and we were sold out ever since then. So that's really cool. Here's what your question is. So the next day, come around the corner in the morning, and I see this huge long line of people waiting to get tickets for that day, and I was so happy to see all that. And then it was immediately followed by, oh crap, we don't have enough tickets for everybody. It's that same thing every year. But so yeah, I had to go down there, and I was kind of counting, and yeah, I was telling people, you may not get tickets, don't be mad, come back tomorrow. And then the next day it was even crazier. So, but it was a really nice way to show that people enjoyed the event. Here's the crew from the Raven. We grabbed Raven and made her come take a photo with us. But this is the people that helped put the event on last year.
Wow.
Nice folks.
You mentioned tokens. Now, I doubt many people, if any, know there's a connection with tokens and Peter.
Yes.
I wonder if Peter remembers that connection. Do you remember how he connected with you about tokens? And you had some type of template or something? Does that ring a bell?
Oh, no. Let me look at your notes, sir.
I think he's talking about in 2007 when we went from wooden tokens.
Yeah, it was converted to the
Oh,
chippy
to
tokens.
chips.
Yeah.
So, Cloud? Is that what we're talking about? Yeah, so I did a chip throwing game called Cloud. You probably don't remember it, and that's probably a good thing. Oh yeah, a couple people remember. I think it was a fine concept. We could never get our cogs where we need cost of goods where we needed them to really make the game work. But did I hook you up with them, or I gave you a bunch of them?
So yeah, you basically I called Peter up and said, hey, I make tokens and they're wood and They break, and man, I really like the quality of the cloud chips. These are really cool. Where do you get them made? He's like, well, sadly, we're going to stop producing them, but hell, I'll just give you my molds. Here you go, have my molds. So the front of every token as of today still have the front of the cloud chips, because we just kept as we made more molds, they keep the same. So if you notice, the cloud chips and the True Dungeon tokens all have the dimple thing around the edge. So that's where that came from. We had to change the back of the mold because we wanted to put our logo and stuff on there. But yeah, it was thousands of dollars that he saved me by donating, and then hooking me up with the manufacturer that I still use today was a big thing. So it was awesome. Without it, wouldn't have happened. We'd still be using wooden tokens. Thanks, Peter.
Peter, is there anything else you would like to add or about True Dungeon, or any memories you might have, or your thoughts on the future of True Dungeon and Gen Con?
Well, no, I can't really think of it. It's just it's just a wonderful event. I'm so honored that you brought the event to me and not just some other event. So I think it's, and I guess what I'm really the most happy with is just how you've been able to turn it into a business to support your family. I always think about things like that. Those of us who are in business, yeah, it's great to have a big business, make a lot of money, sure, but the first step is get to where you can support your family. Get to buy a house and a car and just all the basics. That's be able to send your kids to school. It's really, really important. I love to see that with anybody I work with. So,
Excellent. How about you? What do you think about the future of True Dungeon?
Well, we only have a few minutes, so
well, we're over time, but
I
fast.
I could do another hour on this, but yeah.
Until someone kicks us out.
I think it's going to be great. I know it's going to go on well past me, hopefully. So I think it's really going to be awesome. Hopefully it keeps going. Hopefully someday they'll, we'll be able to even do better and better sets, better and better, effects, and we're just continually trying to get it better and better. Our virtual stuff's going great. We love that. Hopefully we can keep improving that and all that. But I just hope we can just make more fun for people. Hopefully we can get into more cons and get more people having fun and joining this awesome community that we've made. Luckiest guy on the planet, like I said. All right, number 2. Luckiest. Number 2. But yeah, and then also, True Dungeon just started just like a fun hobby, and it got out of hand and kind of turned into, I was working, and I was like, I could shift gears here and try to, make a living out of it, and it's turned out well, and we're able to give jobs to a few other folks, which is nice, and help other people attend cons. It's great. There's stipends and hotels and badges and stuff. So it's been great, and a lot of people owe a lot of thanks to this guy right here for getting it all started.
Thanks. Yeah, sorry we're out of time. I didn't have time for questions, but one more round for Peter and Jeff and the next 20 years. Thank you all for coming. Have a good rest of the time.